Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is One Day Today, and we are on episode 94, almost at 100. It's kind of hard to believe the last year, what's opened up since we started this virtual stage. And, when we first began in April of last year, this was a platform to really share the unique gifts of humanity. Everybody has a different story. Everyone has different circumstances, different upbringings, different experiences that led them to themselves and led them to discover really what they've had in their lives, and what led them to share the gift that they are. And really what this space is a place for people to share the wisdom on the other side of their trials or tribulations or traumas, because something that I believe is, it's through our story, through our struggles, and that we overcome, that we discover not only who we are, but what we have to share and to contribute with everybody. We all have something, whether it's our written word, our song, or our ability to make an amazing, beautiful garden. There's so many gifts that we all uniquely have that benefits everybody. And that's what One Day is about. It's really holding up just the unique stories, but the unique gifts of all. And that's why we're here, and that's what the stage is about. And first, let me welcome our co-host, Matthew. Matthew, hey, brother.
Hey, how's it going, brother, man?
It's going really well. It's going good. I'm really excited about all of our guests today. We have a pretty
We got a full house.
Full house, loaded crew here.
Yeah, it should be entertaining. I am especially curious myself, and I don't like. I'm not even gonna speak today. I'm just gonna say let's just go right into it, because we're. I really want to hear what they had to say this morning, or wherever you happen to be in the world.
Absolutely. So what I'm gonna do is I want to invite Ebengo, our first guest. But first, I have a video about his organization. So it's my honor and really privilege to have Ebengo with us. I met him a few months ago, and I'm just so inspired by Ebengo and what he's up to, what he's created. But he runs an organization called the African Initiative for Human Development. And I'm gonna play a little video here.
Yeah, let's
pull this up here. Let me reshare this so we have sound.
Sound usually helps. Yeah, checking that little box. Maybe.
There we go. Okay, here we go. This is a little introduction about the African Initiative for Human Development.
There it is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ebengo Honore out of Kakuma, Kenya. Ebengo, so good to have you with us, brother. Thank you for joining us, and just thank you for just who you are. I mean, no one's even met you here yet, but I'm just so excited to have you, and I'm really just such an honor to have you with us, brother.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I was so surprised when I received the message.
It's just such a, I mean, since I've known you, I've shared about. I mean, we met like as, it was, call it God or call it fate, but I met you at a time where it was a partnership that was created out of thin air, and I'm just so privileged and honored to know you and just what you're up to. In Kakuma, and for people at home who don't know, Kakuma is a refugee camp in Kenya. It's one of the world's oldest and largest refugee camps. And what Ebengo is doing there is just nothing short of miraculous, just giving people access to leadership training and, just being able to be trained and developed to empower themselves. And it's something it's just something very dear to my heart, the cause. So Ebengo, if you're ready, without further ado, Ebengo, please take the stage. The stage is yours.
Yeah, once again, thank you, dear Abraham. And when we met last time via a WhatsApp call, I said something is on the way coming. And I was really happy. And I told even my team that I think we are heading where we don't know, but where we have to get a lot of hope. And maybe people will motivate them in what we are doing so that we can implement what is really needed in the community. As you said, I'm based in Kakuma refugee camp, and I'm also a refugee, but I'm a citizen of Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm in Kakuma since 2013. Now is almost 7 years. And as all refugees who have ambitions of helping community members, we just created a community-based organization called Africa Initiative for Human Development. And with that initiative, what we are doing is just to help our community members to get basic skills in leadership, peace, and conflict resolution. As you know, most of us, we are from those countries where there is a conflict. Then we believe in training people in the camp. Probably they can be conflict solvers and maybe peace campaigners in their country of origin. Then we also train people in digital citizenship. Is where we are trying to give children access to basic skills in the computer and other digital tools. We also train those who have completed their high school in freelance and the digital entrepreneurship, just to help them gaining skills which will enable them to be maybe people are able to create job opportunities for themselves and for their community members, but also to be their own bosses. Because in Africa we have a challenge of getting the jobs from the government. That's why we said if we can be able to empower youth and they give them the skills which will help them to create their own jobs, that will be something good. And in our context, we're in a place where to earn something on a daily basis is not simple. Then we also train those who are able to create app building. That year we started it was last year, where our first team was able to implement an application for what we are doing. So that is what we are trying to do in the community. And with this connection, I was also given a scholarship by Let Us Make a Difference, where I attended a landmark forum, and I'm still going on the forum, which has helped me to see life in another context and to say I was missing something for myself and for my community members. And I do remember what I said. It was just to dedicate my life for the future of my community members and everyone in the world. That's in short, that is what I'm doing and what I am.
Thank you for sharing, Ebengo. I want to hear about, your work is just phenomenal, and your commitment to your community is inspiring. But I want to hear about not only what brought you to Kakuma and to how did you get to this place? How did you find this power inside you to be able to, just not leave it to somebody else? Somebody else can create a community center. Somebody else can make this African initiative for human development. What did you experience that allows you to create this community center that is so, that's not only talking about, but taking action to support the youth, to support people in Africa, and really support, the world? Like, how did you come to that? Like, what did you discover and what opened up?
Yeah, as you may know, we are in a society where injustice is the main rule of life. Although I remember I was getting an online courses on human rights. It was an introduction. And from there, I decided to run child right awareness in primary schools. Although during that exercise, there is a child who asked me a very simple question. He just told me, do you really think I have the same right as a child who is in abroad or in Nairobi, Lodwar, Kitale, those other cities? Then as a facilitator in that time, I was not able to give a clear answer, but just I could be able to tell children, yes, as long as you are a child, you're still having the same right. Depends on in which context you are. But the main challenge is the implementation of that right. That is also sometimes getting a problem in terms of the environment where you are. Then when I came at home, I was not able to feel like I did something or I give a certain answer to that child. And by the chance, I was also in a group of refugee educators. I started chatting with one of my friends, and I told her, I think like I was not able to answer a child because the main question of that child was, do you think I really have the same right as other children outside? And the question was focused on accessing digital skills, how a child in Kakuma can be able to learn computer and to use computer. Then she told me, yes, I think we are able to implement or to set up a classroom where children who are attending our child right awareness club can be also coming to join computer literacy. Then I said, wow, I think those children will really enjoy. And they said, we also have right as others. Although I remember the first donation was $2,000. I moved from Kakuma to Nairobi, where I went to buy some computers, batteries, and other solar panels. Then I came back to Kakuma. I set up a center just with 7 to 6 meters, and with some small tables and chairs. Then from there, I realized there's another gap in the community. We normally elect community leaders, but they don't have any basic skills in leadership. Then I said, from my country of origin, I learned international relations. Can I be able to do something? But I will not be able to offer all those courses alone. Then I made a certain research on other people who may have some background in terms of leadership skills. So I got another person who has a bachelor degree in conflict resolution. I told him, now we have responsibility to help community members. The skills you have, don't expect it to be only for you, but let it to also help community members. Then I said, who will be our student? I said, we have community leaders who don't have any basic skills in the leadership, and they are our leaders. Then let us dedicate our time to just help them. Then he told me, do you think we'll be asking the man? I said, no, we have to dedicate something. This is the service we must give. Then we made an advertisement and we recruited those community leaders for the first intake. Then we realized, no, community leaders, they don't have even any skills in terms of formal education. So it was a bit hard to start transforming the skills, semi-university, to those who don't have something in their background of education. So the first intake was for community leaders. Then we also put the second intake where we got those who have completed their high school, and they really realized that this program will help us. It is from there now we started training people in leadership, peace, and the conflict resolution. But also remember, Kakuma refugee camp, we normally get conflict each year, and that is consistently. Then we said, for us to be able to reduce, if we not to stop conflict in the camp, but just we can reduce the intensity of conflicts and help the community members to be able to identify when conflict on the way to occur, maybe they can be able to avoid the conflict in their daily life activities. So we inserted conflict resolution in the course. But remember also another point which came in our discussion was in Kakuma, we normally elect our leaders, but we don't know who to elect and who is going to be elected. Then we said, let us put democracy and election in our program. That has given us leadership, peace, and the conflict resolution, plus democracy and election. That is, so we are trying to catch up our program depend on the need in the community. When we set up this program, we realize people now that are able. If you ask someone, why you need to elect someone, why? Say, no, I have to see someone who has a communication, he has a plan for my future, he needed to engage me in conflict resolution, he needed to make campaign. So you see, we are trying to attract the attention of community members to the need in the community. Then we come also with that program of freelance and the digital cities, digital entrepreneurship. The problem is when people are graduated in high school, they don't have enough opportunity to go to universities, college, or to be hired to get a job. Then we said there is a need. Can we be able to set up a program where people can be taught how they'll be working online? And today, among social media, we have a platform which are offering job opportunities. Then we said, let us create a freelance and a digital entrepreneurs, because we train people. If you go to our Facebook page, we normally graduate due to, by the way, the tools, just 25 per intake, and the one intake is taking 3 months. So now some of those youth who are attending our courses, they're able to work online. They're able to get some income. And that is what is making us to say we are making an impact. Then we said, but still, if we are able to host just in leadership some 25 students, but the demand is still high in the community of those who don't have information on how to solve the conflict, is why we have initiated a peace campaign, a peace and the conflict resolution campaign. This one is just we move in the community, aware people about conflicts, telling them how they can avoid conflicts in their daily interactions, how they can solve it, because conflict is also one of our reality. So we can avoid it, but we can't maybe stop it at all. Then we said, if that's one happen, how will you be able to solve that conflict so that you and your friend, you can maintain that peace even though it was on the way to be broken? So that is, we normally run in the community. And like this year, the target is to reach 7,200 people who will be told about peace and the conflict resolution. Those are not coming to our center, just moving in the community. But the target of our formal training is just 540 person will be trained in the 3-month trainings. So that is how I think. Then we normally connect our training to our country management. We don't train politicians, but just to tell them, please, the skills you are getting will help you to know my leader or my president or the governor is not leading us according to the principle of democracy or maybe according to good leadership. So we try to tell them about Kakuma refugee camp where we are, but also to give them the picture of their country of origin. Please, if this one is happening, it's because we are implementing such kind of leadership. And that is something which is motivating people to come and join our programs. I can tell you, like this intake, we had more than 75 students who just came to join our leadership classes. But the space we have can just host 25. So it was a bit hard to select those who will go, who will learn, and those who will not be learned. That's where I normally tell my team, please, don't think we have created a solution. The solution we brought has created another problem, because those who are not integrated in our program are more than those who are integrating the program due to maybe a classroom or maybe the device, the tools we are using are not able to help community members to enjoy what they need from our services. So in brief, the inspiration came from the local experience and our background, what we normally see and what we are going through.
Wow, it's so powerful on so many levels. But what I really heard in your sharing is, real leadership and real responsibility. It's like it's like there's part of the daily life it sounds like there's conflict, and you're not waiting for some politician to come along and save you. It's like you are your own savior, and you're giving others access to that. You're not waiting for it to solve itself. You are taking it on and seeing the power we all individually have. Every person in your community is a light that can encourage others and that can inspire and that can empower others. And I just think I just so acknowledge you for just being that space that allows leaders to arise within your community and to train them and to give them access. It's just something it's just inspiring. So just thank you for being who you are, Ebengo.
Thank you a lot, my dear brother Abraham.
Yeah. Going off of what both of you just said, so there's a lot to unpack in everything you just said. I know we're not gonna have time to touch on all of it, but something that really stood out that I would like you to kind of speak more on, if you can, is I found that looking like taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture often helps me a lot. And so I was wondering if you would kind of step back and share a bit about the bigger picture, like the root of some of these conflicts and where, because this has been ongoing for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is a very long-standing situation that you guys have been born into, literally. And it's not something that's really covered where I'm at in the States. Like, it's not something that's really talked about in the news. It's not something that's talked about in history. So would you just take a few minutes and kind of step back and give us a bit of a big picture of where all this started and kind of the conflict and the issues that you're actually facing today, like where those come from?
Yeah, let us take the context of conflict in our refugee camp. And this is, I will answer it the way we normally do it. The first thing is first to help community members to identify the source of conflict, because they know, as the community members, they know if we go to water tap, in our camp, we do share taps. And you can get one water taps is just used by 100 people or maybe 15 houses that are just collecting water from one water tap. And the challenge is what? That water tap has something like 2 hours water is running. And if you did not manage to fetch water, you will force yourself, people, or you will not, because you normally make lines to put an order. So if you think now what is going to stop running, let me double cross or let me jump the line, and I became the first person. So in that context, you will see maybe the first person online will not support you to go ahead him while he's the person who came first. We have also where we normally going to collect firewood, maybe foods items. We also put lines. So the conflict most of the time they're coming when people are not understanding each other in terms of putting lines. We have another source of conflict is where maybe the youth are going to play football, and we don't have that the sport spirit or maybe the experience. So if someone knock you, someone abuse you, or someone talk something you did not support it, you will feel annoyed. While the sport normally request us to be those people supporting each other to create a friendship. So if you don't have that spirit of friendship, then you will end up by maybe slap your friends or maybe shoot him. So when that's one happen, most of the time people, they normally fight. So for us to maintain such kind of thing, to turn conflict in peace or maybe some negative behavior in a positive behavior, the problem is not to go while conflict is there. The problem is to anticipate and to remind people, please remember, we normally experience conflict in the camp because of ABCD. So for us to reduce the intensity or the number of conflicts in the camp, we must avoid ABCD in our interaction on our daily interaction basis. The second thing is what? We have the intermarriage aspect. As I told you, you have the camp where we have more than 50 nationalities. And each nationality has a specific tribes. So, and each tribe has a specific clans. So you'll realize the culture itself is moving in a strong diversity. Then to connect that diversity is something which is not totally possible. Then, for example, we have South Sudanese, we have Congolese, Somali, Burundians. To engage in intermarriage is not simple. We have Christians and we have a Muslim. To engage in intermarriage is not possible. So what we normally tell people is what? We normally tell them, for example, you're in a classroom where you don't have a pen, or maybe your pen is not writing. Near to you, there is a Somali, there's a Burundian, a Congolese. He has 2 pens. Will not be able to ask him a pen because he's not someone from your tribe or your country. Then it says, no, I will be able to ask him pen. Or so is how we normally create a relationship. When you start a small conversation, that conversation can lead you to a strong conversation, which can end up by sharing feelings in terms of love. Then if that's one happen, do we really need to get involved and interrupt that conversation or love? No, because it's a personal choice. And they remember, human right give us the right to choose what you need. So it's a thing we are trying to build people and to create that understanding in the community, to let them know, please, what is happening is necessary. It has to happen because where people are, such kind of interactive normally be there. But if we put our culture in front of our personal relationship, it means we are not to be able to implement our collaboration, cooperation, or maybe our friendship in our society. So you realize the background of such kind of conflicts is a social behavior which we all of us go through. But the problem is to support that social behavior we have. And it is where things are not totally clear. And people are not told that one in the formal education. People are not told that in the churches, where you can see one community is rare to get a Congolese who is going to pray to where Burundi, Somali, or maybe Sudanese are praying. And it is in such kind of context to animate people with that spirit of understanding each other and the forgiveness, building a strong forgiveness, building a stronger collaboration must be done by those who have lights, those who are at least educated, and that have realized this is something which is negative in our society. So it's something which normally happens in that context. And we believe awareing people, telling them about peace campaign is something which we must stick on, and they say up to when the camp will be closed is where we'll stop this campaign. Because the consequence, the negative effects are not easily to be supported.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually really like that shortcut that you're taking there, where you're kind of bypassing a lot of the history of the tribe and just pointing out the commonality first, like just the little things that we all have in common. Go, look, we have this common. You can share a pen. It's perfectly okay to share a pen. So if it's okay to share a pen, what else can we share? That's a really elegant way of looking at it, and I appreciate that. So have you started to see some of the ripple effects from your program in the camp at large? Are you starting to see like people actually implementing what you're teaching them out in the lines and like at the games and things like that?
Sorry, a bit.
Are you actually starting to see people practice what you're teaching, basically? Like, are you starting to see them put it into practice?
Yeah. Because I'm not able to share my screen, I could even share some interview. We have those who are attending our programs. We normally have, for example, first a monitoring system. This monitoring is helping us to just interact with those who have been attending our sessions, then to collect the outcome of the program from them. We as organization, we can think we are making an impact in the community, while community members, they don't appreciate our work. So what to do is, after conducting campaign in a specific area, we do again go back to ask a community members individually, please, we have seen on the list, you have attended our peace campaign. What are you now able to implement some skills you have learned during that peace campaign? Were you able to solve a conflict? Were you able to avoid the conflict in your social interaction? For example, those who are learning our formal trainings program, if you go to our Facebook page, we started tracking the performance of our students and those who are working with us organizations. So you see someone who's learning here after graduation, he got a job. So it means we are implementing our dream. Dream is to help community members to earn something. Then if you are told, no, please, there's one student, your former student, now is working with this organization. Wow. I think I don't have to doubt if I'm doing positive things in the community. Or for example, you see, we had this guy, his brother maybe pregnated another person, but the conversation ends on the table. Instead of taking them, because no matter, please, when the conflict is there, don't take the conflict to police. because at the end, when the police judge, maybe one person will be arrested. And if that person is arrested, it means there will be a certain strong frustration in the community. The two parts will not, their family will not interact easily. But if that's a conflict taken in the community, solved by community members, is possible people to build again their peace, which was on the way to be broken. So we totally discourage people to take their cases to police, because you can be arrested. But also to tell them there is some kind of cases you can't solve in the community. That is the penal cases, and the human take them to the court or to police, or as a person mandated by the government. The civil cases, offense, that we can sit and solve them. So first, to let people to understand that this case can be taken in this place and this one in this place, but also how to avoid such kind of exam. So we have a monitoring system which is helping us to track the performance or maybe the activity of our students and the participants in the community.
Wow. It's so beautiful what you're creating, Ebengo, and what I hear, I mean, and so much what you're saying, it affirms what I've said many times before on this stage is, peace is not the same thing as avoiding conflict. And what I see, it's like peace is bringing your inner peace to an outside conflict. It's not avoiding that. It is acknowledging the conflict. It is stepping into it and addressing it. And that's exactly what you're doing in your community. You're teaching people how to deal with those situations that are inevitable when there's people from many places who are, in situations where they don't have all the resources that are needed. And you're teaching them how to bring their peace to conflict in the world. And I think that it just brings joy to my heart that you are a human alive, and that you are doing what you do, Ebengo. It's just inspiring. Just thank you for being here with us. Just thank you for who you are being and what you're up to. And I'm just excited to have you here and to just continue this partnership, and it's just exciting to have you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, sir, my dear brother.
We're going to check back in with Ebengo. Go ahead, Matthew.
I just want to just echo Abram really quick and just say thank you for everything you're doing. And I wish you all the best. And I hope that this is something that we can use to get your story out there and get you more support and start bringing this to a much wider audience and getting your students and your people there more tools to spread this even farther and wider and learn faster and better. So
thank you a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you again, brother. Thank you, Ebengo. We're going to check back in with Ebengo in a moment. But first, I just want to check in with you and invite you to share your gift on this stage. This stage is not about me. It's not about Matthew. It's not about any one of us. It's about all of us. And we want you to share your gift. Whatever you've experienced in your life, whatever you faced is your story, and what you've overcome is a gift. And you overcoming what you've dealt with in your life is a gift for another who's going through the same thing, or who doesn't see a way out, someone who feels stuck or lost, scared, or alone. It is your triumph over your hardship, over your struggles, and you're sharing about it that allows others to do the same. And it's that simple. It's like when we share vulnerably what we've experienced, it's what allows us to rise above, and together we rise. And that's exactly what One Day's mission is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. So now let me welcome our second guest. Please let me welcome to the stage, Val Goran.
Hey,
Hi,
guys.
Val. Hi. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
That was intense. Yeah, that was pretty good. So my name is Val Goran, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My passion is coaching survivors of trauma to heal and empower themselves. And my other passion is performing stand-up comedy. I mostly tell stories about my pet sitting business, my wild youth. And what I want to talk about today is trauma. So I consider, and the role of philosophy in trauma. So I consider myself a stoic, and A stoic is somebody who loves what happens to them. You know, you love what happens to you. So there's an old joke that says a stoic is the only ethical food because they would be okay with you eating them. But what does it have to do with trauma? So, you know, life is traumatic. We live, we die. We've all been through COVID. So, you know, life is suffering, as the Buddha says. So what's the solution is to love what happens and embrace it. So there's a great book that Man's Search for Meaning, where Viktor Frankl discusses logotherapy. It's a type of therapy for trauma where you find meaning in what happens to you. And what you'll see over and over is people take the most traumatic incidences in their life and turn into something meaningful and valuable to them. Right. So I really like the word compassion. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, and what I just got out of that experience is renewed compassion and passion. And compassion, the word compassion, it's passion for others, right? And where am I going with this? Because I'm definitely going somewhere. Anyway. Okay, let's talk some more about trauma. Because I think pretty much, maybe I'm just projecting here, but I think pretty much everyone is traumatized right now with what's been happening. And some symptoms of trauma are actually chronic back and neck pain, fibromyalgia, migraines, digestive issues, IBS, fatigue, even asthma. Because sometimes we don't like to deal with with our trauma, right? We sort of sublimate the trauma. And the job of therapy is to acknowledge the experience of trauma and bear the reality of life, because the greatest sources of our suffering are the lies we tell ourselves, because we are not willing to confront our trauma and our addiction. And this country, addiction is rampant, and we use addiction as a way to avoid dealing with our trauma. For example, I would consider playing too many video games can be an addiction. So it's avoidance, or drinking, or toxic productivity, which you may have heard about recently. You're just busy for the sake of busyness. And the people I've worked with, survivors of domestic violence, what I've seen is that we're on the phone, they're doing something else. They're cleaning the bathtub, they're doing anything to avoid being in the actual moment. And to heal from trauma, a cornerstone is mindfulness meditation, talk therapy, yoga, EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and realignment, I think it is. And the goal is to put you back in the moment, because we're all terrified of being in the moment, right? And that is just classic traumatic response and addiction. So what else I wanted to talk about is I'm sort of working on a theory about the placebo effect. So we're all familiar with the placebo effect, right? You take a sugar pill and you feel better. And it's remarkable because you can tell people that it's a sugar pill and give them a sugar pill, and it still makes them feel better. I have a friend, she's in chronic pain all the time. And I tell her that, if I give her compassion, if she feels supported, the pain goes away, because pain is in the brain, actually, just like addiction. Pain and addiction, they both come from the brain, and the opposite of pain is connection, just like the opposite of addiction is connection. I am going somewhere with this, I swear. So the placebo effect, as it applies to the body. I just described it. Now, I think that we apply the placebo effect to our lives with activities that provide us the feeling of progression. You know, maybe you're jumping into one class, or you're volunteering for one organization, or maybe you're playing 50 hours of video games each week. And all these activities provide the feeling of getting somewhere, but really it's the hamster in the wheel, right? You're not actually getting anywhere. We sort of get addicted to this feeling of progression. Maybe we're collecting coins, working for a corporation, and there's a feeling of progression of maybe we're getting awards. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. Money. Money's great. I love getting money. But there's this sort of feeling of progression that we've sort of separated from actual progress towards our goals and our dreams, right? So what do we need to have the lives of our dreams, right? It's to be in the moment, to really understand what it is that we want and need, which is tough. And then, and then create solid goals and measuring posts. Because I just see it happening over and over. You know, someone who's deeply traumatized tries to rescue all the people around them, or they're involved in this volunteer program while their lives are falling apart. And I would consider it a form of addiction, and an addiction to the feeling of progress when there isn't actually any progress being made in their lives. So what do you guys think about all that?
Thank you, Val. Thank you for sharing, everything and all your insight and your experience. And I mean, well, to answer your question, I think it's great that you have committed to empowering others, through your comedy, but your compassionate work. And one question that comes to me is, what allowed you to step through your trauma? Specifically yours, because I mean, I know it sounds like you deal with a lot of other people who have, who had similar traumas, but like, what did you face? Well, obviously you've been through, you had domestic abuse in your life, but what allowed you to get out of the story of trauma? Like, what made you move from victim to empowered? Like, how did that open up for you? Like, how did you discover your own power in the midst of that trauma? Because that took a lot of courage and a lot of bravery.
Oh, thanks for making it more personal, because that was definitely not something I was doing. And I haven't really thought about it. So I was living in my crazy ex-boyfriend's closet for a couple years, and I guess when you're in an abusive relationship like that, you sort of lose sight of yourself and who you are, what you want. It's all about the other person. It's all about the relationships, about what they want. And it just took, at some point, everyone just they just had enough, right? Everyone who's ever left a domestic violence situation, there's a moment where they've had enough. And my moment was after he hit me, and I told him, that's not the first time you've assaulted me, but it is the last. And just the look on his face was so rewarding, and that was the beginning of my rebellion and, living for myself again. And it just took that little moment, and then I started reaching out and getting support. And then after I left him, I had to move from victim to victorious Val. And and how do you do that? Well, it's all about it's all about the stories we tell ourselves, right? So I decided that my story meant something, and that, yeah, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I'm tougher as a result, and I'm wiser, and I can use my experience to help others.
Exactly. Like you brought up that key moment that I see so many times in people who have broken out of that cycle of trauma and abuse. And that's that moment of recognition of this sucks. Like this is awful. And I feel awful. And no one else is going to help me until, or not necessarily until, but unless I actually recognize that this actually sucks. And that kind of brings us back to what you were talking about in your speak about in your talk about mindful awareness, and that is how I see mindful awareness. It's becoming aware of how I actually feel, and then being honest about it, accepting it, and moving forward. And so, I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about, like, were you already on the path of mindful awareness? Was that just a spontaneous realization that like it finally just had enough, or had you already been like learning some more about Stoicism and some more about Buddhism and things like that?
Well, my ex-boyfriend was the one who introduced me to Stoicism, and I've been interested. I've been following it for the past 5 years. So the irony is that my abuser gave me a lot of the tools for my freedom. He helped me build this wonderful business. He helped me learn these wonderful ideas. And then, I still struggled feeling like a victim after I left him. And I did do the landmark for him. That helped me to sort a few things out.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the meaning we find in our experiences, right? So like it's like the victim mentality in the beginning is this is all my fault, or I deserve this, or whatever story it is that we're telling ourselves when we're in the midst of the abuse. And it's like for me, what happened was that at that same moment of this sucks, like I'm miserable, I want out of this, I'm done. I just got to the point where I was just done. And then I changed that situation just because of how much energy, that recognition of how angry I was and how upset I was and how much I didn't want to be in that situation anymore. That gave me the energy to force the change, to actually force me to change. But it wasn't until years later that I started getting into the realization of how I got into that situation in the first place, which is the story that I took on as truth when I was a kid. The story of, like, for me personally, it was I don't want to change, and so I'm just going to observe life instead of participating in life. And that kind of kept me trapped for a long, long time. So like having that realization of I created the story to begin with, and because I created the story, I can change what it means at any time, was really profound for me. And I wonder, like, what was the story you were in, and how did you reframe that story to create something more powerful for you moving forward?
Sure. So the story I grew up with was that I don't belong and I don't matter, because I was a really isolated kid, and it seemed like nobody understood me. So I had to get in touch with that part of myself and create a new me.
One thing you said, Val, well, speaking like about the irony of your abuser, your ex-boyfriend, how he also had tools that he provided you to break free of his abuse, and that kind of points me to this cycle, this chain that you actually broke. Is that every abuser is also a victim. And it's like this cycle that we all but what is amazing and inspiring about your story is how you've broken that cycle, because you could have just taken that story and created more victimhood and more abuse, whether it was your own abuse or just of yourself. But you took what happened and you not only broke free of that story of how you were treated, but you're breaking free of that is allowing others to break free of that cycle, and seeing that we all have a choice to be a victim or be a victor, as you put so perfectly. And I think that's amazing. And I know you have to go on the hour, but I just wanted to put that out there. Is like, what do you say, like, standing where you are now after experiencing the depths of being a victim, and then coming out on top of being here now empowering others, what is it like, what have you discovered now? What could you say now, like what would you say to somebody who's in the same situation you were in, and what do you say now to somebody who is who might be a victim who is also abusing people? Like what would you say to somebody in your situation, and also what would you say to somebody who is choosing to act out and be abusive?
I suppose I tell the victim that it's okay to be where you are, and you have the power to choose, and you're not alone, because it's a really lonely place. And I guess to an abuser, I would say much the same thing. Also, just don't do that. It's not nice. But I want to clarify something, because we do have to watch out for victim blaming. And the thing is about domestic violence is it can really happen to anyone. It's insidious. It happens to therapists who work with survivors. And it's because the way it works is it's subtle. And like in the first 2 years, you have this wonderful, perfect relationship. And then gradually your abuser starts pulling away your loved ones. It starts pulling you away from them and putting poison in your ears about them. So you're pulling away from your loved ones, and he's putting poison in your ears about your appearance, things you're insecure about, until gradually you're just completely dependent on this abusive person. Now, maybe if I was a stronger person, I wouldn't have fallen for it. But it's my personal belief that this can absolutely happen to anyone, even at any time. And I'm grateful that I have the tools now to watch out for the signs. And I have really strong, I have confidence in myself that I can prevent something like this from happening again, because I have the experience.
Yeah, that, like what you said about having the tools, I feel like that is absolutely key, because it can happen to anyone, but it's easier to stay out of those situations if we have the tools of mindful awareness, if we have the tools of stoicism, if we have the tools of that bigger understanding of our own nature and human nature in general, because that gives us the ability to spot the warning signs before we get so involved that there's no way out. And so just thank you for sharing, and thank you for bringing it out there and for being open with your experience. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was great. It's nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much, Val. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you for just having the courage to share your story, and giving others that ability to see that it doesn't have to be that way, and there's a way out. There's a way to be strong, even in the midst of pain. There's a way out, and we have a choice. And I just really acknowledge your courage, and your being willing to share your story, because I know it's not easy. I mean, especially just something it has such a big impact, and it's something that creeps, like as you were saying, it can creep up. It can happen to anybody, and I just admire and acknowledge your courage. So just thank you, Val, for sharing with us.
Thanks, Abram. It's so easy to talk about, and I could talk about it all day. It's just, I love it. I love this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you sharing with us, and just thank you again for being with us, and just for who you are being, and in empowering others to get out of their struggle, and to create something new in the face of that. So thank you.
You have to. All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Thank you, Val.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. So we have one more guest I want to welcome before we bring Ebengo back, but I want to welcome to the stage. We have Brianpatrick White. BP.
Good day. Yeah, good day, everyone. Abram, Matthew, and all of you out there. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank
you
you
for joining us. Yeah, I'm curious to see where you're going to take us.
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, everyone grab some popcorn, sit back, buckle your seatbelts, because we're in for a bumpy ride. No, it'll be smooth. So my experience backstage listening to Ebengo and then Valerie, the similarities that we have as humans, and the human condition. And I appreciated the conversation that was, directed towards Ebengo. Matthew, you spoke to it. And I've had a conversation with Ebengo and some other individuals over in Africa. And so living over here in the US, completely detached, no idea really of what's going on over there and the history of it, right? Yet the difference that is being made from those individuals, the people who feel the calling and the leadership to step up. So while there still is, for myself and maybe you too, Matthew, and the viewers out there, it's like, what really is going on? And not that we need to get to the source of it yet. It's a deeper problem or an issue. It's systemic, I assert, and Ebengo's taking it on. So with Valerie, she was speaking about that I was connecting with some projects I'm working on or have been doing, and I've spent so much time behind my computer. And while I have these wonderful, graphs and charts and things are documented, and I still I think they're valuable, there is a lot of time behind the computer, and I'm thinking, okay, was I escaping from something? And, am I avoiding something? And, the difference between activities and action and what's going to make the difference in what we're up to. So really appreciating the conversation, sitting back here in the green room with the green screen and having the experience of being called up to bat right now. So here I am, Abram, Matthew. You're talking about transformation and sharing some vulnerable moments and such and whatnot. Here I am, gentlemen. Take it away.
Oh, there we go. It would help if I was unmuted. Abram is going to be joining us back in just a second. He had to step away for a second, but well, thank you for being here. And since you brought the conversation back to that, let's jump into what is conflict. Really, what is the root of conflict? And one of the things I see in that is it's simply the lack of understanding that the other is the same as you. Like there's this, we grow up in these stories that this is the way the world works. And this is what you are. And there are others out there who are not the same as you. And because they're not the same as you, there's all kinds of fears that come up in the unknown. Can they hurt me? Can they scare me? Can they, whatever. And that seems to start the ripple effect of creating these stories about how awful they are and why we should avoid them and so on and so forth. And so I'm kind of wondering if you'd like to dive in to like some of your experiences with the Ebengo and the tribes and the conflict resolution and the conflicts over there, and um, maybe tie them in to what got you there in the first place. Like, where did you start? Where did you step into this story? And what do you see what role do you see yourself playing in them?
Thank you for that, Matthew. Thank you for this. And yeah, with Ebengo, I had a conversation with him the other day. We had a one-on-one, and unfortunately, the internet kicked out, so we didn't get the full conversation to play out. I myself, my background is in massage therapy, like 20 plus years, as a craft and a trade. And while it's needed and I enjoy it, I began looking or delving back into the world of video and interviews and documentaries. And about 3 years ago, I did an 8-day intensive video documentary in Durham, North Carolina, at the Center for Documentary Studies in association with Duke University. And it's like, what can I do? What can I create with conversation and using video as a medium to communicate? And, so in massage therapy, I work with one person at a time. And I'm like, I make one video and I can reach the entire world. Whoa, this is a game changer. And, there's absolutely no book for how I got to where I'm at. And we can say that for, any of us here. And for me, it's been, discovery, this huge path of discovery and getting out and burning cookies, getting in the kitchen and burning cookies. Because if I'm burning cookies, then I'm at least in action and like let's get the recipe or dirty, like let's get it right? And so, fortunately through transformational programs, continuing education, professional and personal, I found my voice again, so to speak. Like I knew there was so much more available, yet I didn't know how to access it. And once it was accessed, my voice opened up a little more, started talking to people coming out of this shell. And anyhow, fast forward, a buddy of mine was talking with a lady by the name of Wendy Huffman, and she was looking for someone to do a documentary for her nonprofit. And we started talking, and it was an everyday kind of thing. And what she's created with Abram and what they're doing in Africa and the connection that they have with it has opened the doors for me to explore even more of what I see for the vision of Listen on Big Media. And what's being created is the International Nonprofit News Channel. And in my experience, whether it's regular news or nonprofit reporting, we get one story and then that's it. And then we'll get another story and that's it. And my intention is to bring transparency to the resources and funds that are going into these nonprofits. And not only one, so we have this idea of, okay, this is where the money's actually going. Yet for the donors, the contributors, they have a more direct experience or connection to what it is they're giving. So, for instance, Yellowbird. So, Abram, if you want to give like $3,000 to Ogebe, and you're like, hey, I can go anonymous, or I could give my name, or I could come up with a code name. So, Ogebe, with that $3,000, he's actually documenting with his film, or some of his friends, colleagues over there. And so you're literally seeing what your $3,000 is doing. They can say, thank you, Yellowbird from the US. Now, my intention is to create news teams for all of these for the nonprofits I'm participating with or participating with me, and an ongoing basis to allow the viewers a connection and a relatedness to who Ogebe is and what he's doing. And so as opposed to one story happening every here, now and then, to be consistent with the news stories, like it's ongoing and you can see what's happening and you're right there with him in the refugee camp. And part of this inspiration came from this game project I put together, the global cycling film, and this connection I made over in Rotterdam in Europe. She was on her bike filming. It was a global cycling film and getting footage from all over the world. So she filmed it one day and sent it to my email. And when I woke up and I checked it, I'm like, well, this is so cool. I'm literally on a bike riding in Rotterdam, and it happened yesterday. And having the experience of like being right there and it's fresh. So to keep the news consistent and fresh and transparent, I'm out to cause an interruption in where's the money going, what's it doing, and really just pull the veil back and bring it to the forefront of what's happening. So it's not such a mystery of what's going on over there. Part of it's not even like, we're not even aware of it. It's not even on our radar. So.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what they say.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're up to, because it's like you're shining a light on the shadows around the world that people wouldn't know about unless you were there recording it. And it's like, and I liken this to the example. This is a personal one. This is music, but Alan Lomax, or I don't know if you're familiar. He was early on. He was an archivist for the blues, and he was capturing, early American blues artists, like as they were older. That why I bring this example up is like the blues is like the foundation of music around the world, and if it wasn't for him recording these home recordings of all these old players, these Sun Houses, all just the old blues players like Muddy Waters and all the old players, like we would never have had the blues because no one was there to would have been there to record it. And I see what you're doing, the same thing, is you're recording just like gems of humans around the world and what they're up to, and who you can support and how they're impacting the world. And unless somebody's there to record it, nobody would know about it. And I think it's so essential, and it's so, and it's not something anybody thinks about, because people don't think about something that they don't even know about. And you're giving people access to things that they wouldn't know about unless you were there, capturing it and facilitating, and I just see the impact is just immeasurable, because you're bringing to light things that nobody would know about unless you were there bringing them to light. So I think that's amazing that's your commitment, because you're bringing to light things that you, me, and nobody would know about unless you were on the front lines, asking those questions and capturing all the voices and the stories. And I just acknowledge you for being that person, because nobody's going to do it if it wasn't for you.
Thank you, Abram. I get that. I'm receiving your acknowledgement. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course. I want to bring Ebengo back in the mix
Right.
to kind of talking about it. Welcome back, Ebengo. So, I mean, just kind of connecting the dots. This is what I'm seeing or speaking about is sharing. It's really sharing our experience and sharing our story that allows others to contribute, to see the impact firsthand. And I just want to let you both kind of interact. I know you've both spoken before, but like, what do you see as the opening to to getting for the world to come together around our communities, around our neighbors, whether our neighbors live next door or across the world? Like, what do you see as what's next for the state of the world right now? Where do we go from here with this new? Obviously, four of us are in four parts of the world, which is kind of blows my mind. But like, we're in this new age where we can have this discussion, being in four parts of the world, and share in a medium like this. And like, what do you see what's next? And this, as far apart as we are, we're all here. We're interconnected, and for me, that's the biggest opportunity. And I mean, this is something that COVID opened up on a new level, is how we're all showing up online, interacting in a way that we never, I mean, we had the internet before COVID, but isolation became our access to the world, which it's pretty ironic. But I want to kind of offer to hand this to you guys to, like, what do you see as next for us, but also for humanity in this new state of the world that we are experiencing?
I think the answer is in the logo of your organization. When I've seen the logo where people are holding each other to the hand, I said, this is what is missing the humanity. To understand if this is me, his problem is mine, and together we can make a great change. You know, to be a refugee, to be a black, to be a white, we are still a human being, and we are facing the same challenges. I believe COVID-19 has again brought another lesson to the humanity, because when we are in Africa, you know, in 2020, when we faced our first lockdown, my team told me then, imagine now our community members, they're not aware about COVID-19. Can we be able to mobilize people to tell them what is COVID-19 and how we can be affected? So running in the community, people are saying this is a white disease. It can't contaminate us. You can imagine that ignorance from the community members. But we said they have right because they don't have information. And that is why we are there as the light. The same to when we are facing the terrorism. The world decided to combine their efforts and try to make a solution. So it means the next step, it will be to share our problems, to suggest the solutions, to believe that we must move together and they say, the problem in that side is my problem. What I think can be the solution, let me make it a solution. I had a friend who was telling me, you can have a bottle of water. You take small water, then you throw that bottle with water inside. While in other side, people are dying because they don't have water to drink. Is where the initiative of Brianpatrick White have really supported it. You know, people are outside, they don't know what is going on in other sides. Then how those who are not in our community will be able to identify or to get information on what we are facing. So we must build that a channel of communication. And when he told me the first idea, I said, this is what I was waiting. And I shared the idea with my team. I said, please, now we are going to build a system through which we can be able to share our story, to share our problem, to share our impact, to share what we are doing, and the whole world will be able to get informed and they say, we can support this one or we cannot support this one. So I believe being one team, designing the strategies of spreading out the information will be the next solution, which will help us to achieve what we need to make us a change in this global. But everything must stand up on the trust and the information shared. I think.
Yeah. How about you, BP?
Word. Word. Oh, yeah. Okay. You spoke to the technology that we're utilizing right now, and in the spirit of using technology and going back to the news teams and the reporting, like Ebengo and I, we've began our conversation, and we'll be training. Literally, we'll grab a phone. Smartphones are quite prevalent. We've got the camera there and got access to the internet. So at this time, I'm not going to be over in the refugee camp. It's Ebengo and his team and his crew, and we're putting a newsroom together for the refugee camp so they can continue with their message. I mean, my intention is to empower him and other nonprofits to increase their voice, to their presence in the world. And, with the nonprofit news channel, we'll have them here in one hub and one space. Yet to work with him and others and really getting creating the content for their social media and whatnot. So, let's multiply that out there. And now that I'm listening and even getting a deeper understanding of what he's doing over there, I'm like, Ebengo, like, really? We're talking about graphic design and what else? You got it going on over there, brother. So, in not looking to have handouts from contributors or sponsors or whatnot, it's literally, if they've got these skills, well, let's hire them out, right? Let's get them some jobs. So we're creating an economy in this refugee camp, and we're seeing the results. So looking at other nonprofits and what we can do to utilize it, literally what they're doing. So the sponsor is literally getting a direct service back. So it's not even like a nonprofit anymore in a sense, yet it's nonprofits are business. I get this, to a degree, or really they are. It's a matter of how it's set up and structured. Anyway, point being that we've got the technology to empower the planet. And, it's through conversation, and it begins in conversations like we're having right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like this is actually the beginning of a turning point, and I still feel like humanity could go either way. We could either devolve back into another dark ages, or we could step forward into a new age of enlightenment. But the more we share conversations like this, the more we have moments like this where we can come together and collaborate publicly with the world on a stage, I feel like that creates that ripple effect that both you, Brian and Ebengo, are creating, where you're empowering people around you, and then those people go out and empower people around them, and then so on and so forth, and it just spreads globally. And in that scenario, there's no need for fighting. There's no need for proving anything. There's no need for resisting or trying to change governments or anything like that. It's just, this works for me, and if it works for me, then maybe it can work for you too. And I'm happy to show you how. And I'm happy to have these conversations with the world and show them how all at the same time. And that to me is the transformative process that could potentially lead us into an age of enlightenment in the next however many years. We finally have the infrastructure, we finally have the technology to reach massive amounts of people, and now let's just do it. And you guys are doing it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I mean, to paraphrase Gandhi, we are being the change we want to see in the world. And I think there's this is the new access. COVID, came as, a surprise to everybody in the world, but this is the collateral beauty, is how more tapped in we are able to be, how accessible we can have this conversation on a level that we've never had before. And I think that's what it is a sharing of ourselves, the sharing of our story, a sharing of our, of our, what we've overcome, of our trials and struggles, that allows us to not only overcome them individually, but collectively. And this is what inspires me. And this is what inspired One Day. It is when we're all standing there, when we are standing in who we are as a possibility, what we can create in that space, when the separation is just a story where we love our neighbor, but we are our neighbor because we see how interconnected we are, and how your physical, emotional, intellect, or spiritual, psychological struggles are mine. And it's when I can share my experiences, or when I can share the experiences of somebody in South America or in Africa or in Asia, and from cultures all over the world. It's when we are all showing up to the table we all rise together. And it's like, it's from that space. We're not restricted by the divisions. We are brought together by our common, not only our commonality, but our possibility that we all have, but also the unique gifts that we all to bring to the table. We all have something that, if it was just one person in a room and there's a problem, like, they're probably not going to solve it as effectively as if you have the world working together with using and utilizing the unique gifts that we have. And you guys are affirming all of this. This is what this movement is about. It is very much that. It is sharing what we uniquely have to bring that can empower us all. And I'm just so I'm so honored and excited and privileged just to have you share and to have this conversation. Before we close out, I wanted to give everybody a chance to have any closing words, just anything you'd like to bring after this whole conversation that we've had about, what you see as possible, but also what do you have to share with somebody who's watching who wants to be a part of the solution, that the world's facing, or maybe their community is facing, or maybe they're individually facing.
Yeah. Take action. Listen to that voice, listen to your thoughts, and reach out to One Day, right? We've got some contact information here. So, the difference starts with you. You're the one to make the difference. You hear that thought, Abram asked the question, like, what can we do? Go to your computer. You're sitting at it already. Go to your email, or go to the .com, right? And experience yourself like you've never experienced yourself before, or maybe ignite something newly again that you've had before, and to be in action and part of something that feels right, yet maybe isn't always cool or never was, but what is cool. So that's what I'll leave everyone with. Listen to the voices when they say, you know what, this sounds pretty cool, I want to know more. Well, then find out more.
Mine is as one body, let us take their problem our problems. We are helping the community members who are down. When you go to the logo of UNHCR, you'll see a refugee is the person who doesn't have hands and legs. But you are trying to turn that logo into a person who has hands and legs, able to do something which can get a sound back to him. But unfortunately, the many challenges are, while you are helping someone is not able to implement what you are giving him as skills on its own capacity, then that person needs you again to escort him so that he can be able to implement what he's doing. In our site, the many challenge we do face is that you are training someone to work online. At the end, that person doesn't have a laptop. He doesn't have an internet. Are you expecting that person to work online through which canon? You see, that's the challenge. Then in our management team, we said, can we be able to get an incubation center where our students who have been graduated in a specific program can be passing that center, searching online jobs, then be able at the end to earn something which will help him then to stand up on itself or herself, then to go on with his life. And that is a challenge. Imagine you have 100 in computer basic applicants. They need to join computer basic. But your center is able to give just access to 25 students. How many of them are remaining painful in the community? Can we be able to combine our efforts? Then say, let us increase the number of students by increasing the number of computers. Because the more you have 50 students, the more you are able to create the job placements in the community. And the more those who are graduated will be able to share their skills with other community members who are not able to probably attend the session. there's a certain connection. Please, do you know how to solve a conflict? Yes, I know. I attended this. Can you tell me briefly? Or, you see, so the person is able to get the skills via a person's trends. But if you're not able to expand the program to a big number of community members, personally, I normally think we are still having a challenge to maintain conflict. We're still having a challenge to help youth to be able to create a job opportunity for themselves and for the community members. We are still able to maintain those early marriage, those precocious marriage or pregnancies. We have a certain reality in Kakuma where lady is not able to buy a clothes, but the only way is just to expose herself to the man so that the man can give her some cash. But if that lady was trained to just take a course, at the end is able to earn something from her personal efforts, I think there is no any guy who can go and start playing with that lady. Can we from now engage ourselves in solving problems of those community members who need our help? Can we join our hands together as the logo of this organization is showing? Everyone is holding another person. Because we believe, I will not let you down. I'm trying to interpret the logo. I will not let you down. Let me hold you so that you can stand up. This side, people need your help, for sure. That is what I can add.
Yeah, like the logo you keep bringing up, I something that's very intentional about it is everyone's holding each other, but facing outwards. They're not facing in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a recognition of how when we come together, even if one person in that circle falls or two people in that circle fall,
Yeah,
they're all being held up together.
right.
And they're all facing the world together and able to go out and continue to work to incorporate more of what you're talking about, to bring solutions to these problems and bring resources to these problems and actually build bigger, stronger, more in touch and collaborative communities.
Yeah.
And the more we join hands, like the more people that come in and join hands in that circle, the bigger the circle gets, the more we can support, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and growing.
Mm-hmm. Together we rise, and I mean I really just honor and appreciate both of you for being with us, and I mean just to kind of bring it home, everything that was shared is really great conversation. But it's just for me, it's we not only together we rise, but it's it is what we experience collectively is a reflection of our own leadership. And it's like I bring it back to the garden analogy. It's like we are planting seeds of leadership, and it's like, if not me, then who? If not here, then where? And if not now, then when? And that's why, our tagline is one day is today. It is a future we're living into that we choose to live into right now. In each and every moment, it is a moment by moment phenomenon. And that's what this invitation is, and that's what this conversation, the context of this conversation is. What's possible when we are standing there, when we recognize, ourselves, the divine expression of the universe in ourselves, but also in our neighbor, and what's possible when we're holding each other up, and like when our neighbor needs help with some food, if we came together, it's like, well, what do we have to do to create that for them? What do we have to do to generate that? And it's like, we can solve every problem in the world when we have that. And not only solve every problem, we can create new paradigm to live into, where we have a new experience of ourselves being human, where what new art and creative, endeavors could we create? What new, what could we experience? What new medicine and what new creative solutions could we create? What new spiritual and scientific collaborations could open up? And it's like, that's when we're all joining together, when we have all the perspectives of every culture and every individual, that's where we solve problems that we thought never could be solved. But that's also where we create a whole new level of humanity where we are thriving rather than just surviving. And that's really what this is about. It's like we don't want to. The point is not to just survive, because what we've been doing, we've been hanging on a thread, you know, with old systems that were built on not only corruption but built on our own fears. And that's what we want to. We dare to consider an alternative. What happens to humanity when we all stand together, when we all create together, when we are joining together? And this is the vision of one day: is humanity rising in a connected world, each person's unique contributions, gifts, and genius being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what I want to leave you with. What's possible when we all stand, when I stand there, when you stand there, when we all stand there, what's possible? And there is no limit to what's possible when we recognize that and we choose that every day. And that's our invitation. And just thank you again, Ebengo and Brianpatrick, just for being with us and just sharing the gift that you are and just sharing value for our audience. But just thank you again for being here. This is a great, amazing global conversation, and you've made it even bigger and more real for me. So just thank you both.
Thank you, Abram. Matthew, Ebengo. Come on out, everybody. Come on, join the party. Come on. Come on. All right.
Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next week. You know, thank you again for just being with us and just for being the gift that you are. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. And as always, one day is today. Take care, everybody.
Bye.